1, 2, 3, go.
So today a new video. Again, I'm filming, it's almost the night, so I apologize in advance if the light is completely off at a point. It's the only moment when I could film. I had a lot of work to do today, and packages and post office and walking. So I do that now because it has to be done now. So I'm going to continue my conversation about Derde Verde, Tok Tok and more. First of all, before I start, last week I said two things that I would like to correct a little. First thing, I said that the new songs by Derde Verde were more like the Marcoli solo album of Spirit of Eden, that it had something of the color of spring but not exactly in the sounds. Actually, I was wrong, because I've been listening to these last songs that I saw live, and I still have them on my camera, so I can still watch them every day, and I've been watching them all the time and listening to them, and no, it really has something of the color of spring. And it's important that I say that because it has a link with what I'm going to say in this video.
After all my wandering, only to end the back again.
This new album, I want to hear the CD, how it is made, but for now what I heard live, it really makes me think of the color of spring, not because it's the same songs, it's not the same songs at all, it's the spirit and what it conveys, and I will explain to you in this video. Second thing that I said last week, which was not completely true, I said that we couldn't say that Derde Verde, they were genius because they were still young and they had to do a lot of work, but that they were in their way to be genius. Actually, I was wrong. They are already, the genius is already there. And I realized that by listening to the last songs, the new songs, because, you know, the emotion part was a little less present. I mean, it was a little less overwhelming after a few days. I was able to listen to the songs without this emotion too strong, so I could listen to them by a more, I would say, relaxed way. And I thought, that is genius, because how musicians, young people like that, can do something which reminds the color of spring. Color of spring, it's not nothing, it's something. Still not copying, still it's not the same song, it's completely new, it's their sound, it's them, it's completely Derde Verde, it's really their arrangement, their sound, and still having this quality by reminding the color of spring. That is genius. That is genius. I don't know how they did that. I wanted to say that. I will come back on the album once it's released, and I will come back on the songs in my next videos. I wanted to say that because when we have geniuses around us, we have to acknowledge that. I know it's very strange to say something like that about people that I know and I see at least once a month, but no, when someone is genius, we have to say it and we have to acknowledge it. So let's follow the new generation of genius. What do you think of my earrings? So these earrings, I bought them in 1986. They are from the 80s. I bought them in Cannes in summer 1986. I remember like if it was yesterday. I bought another pair of earrings that I still have too with these ones, and I love them. And I thought that as we are going to talk a lot about the 80s in this video, it was totally appropriate. This week I didn't plan to do this video. I had something else in mind that I will probably do next week. But a viewer contacted me to ask me if I was, after watching a video about Derde Verde and Tuk Tuk, asked me if I was planning to talk about Cock Robin. I used to really love a lot Cock Robin in the 80s, but I thought, what someone think of Cock Robin after watching a video about Derde Verde and Tuk Tuk? Beside the fact that Cock Robin was almost the same, basically the same period as Tuk Tuk, but still it's not quite the same. And I thought, that's strange, but I was a little confused, and I thought about it, and I started listening to Cock Robin a lot this week, and I thought, you know, I must talk about them. I must talk about them because Cock Robin, they are American. They were not known in the US. They became famous in Europe and especially in France. They became huge in Europe. But they never managed to have a really big success in the US. And I thought that's unfair. That's unfair because they deserve much more than what they got. And I thought, if something happens to me tomorrow, wish I would have made this video before. Because I think that I need to say things about Cock Robin. And second thing which happened, actually it made me understand, Cock Robin made me understand why I love Derde Verde. So I thought I must do this video now because it's now that it must be done. So we are going to talk about Cock Robin, but before I talk about Cock Robin and Tuk Tuk, it's linked. I must talk about how this movement, because there was in the 80s, there was this movement which was including, according to me, that's my vision of the thing, Tuk Tuk, of course, Simple Minds. Yeah, what I would say about Cock Robin, I think that I could say it also about Simple Minds, except that Simple Minds, they became famous here in the US also, I think. Roxy Music, Brian Ferry, same thing. Roxy Music was the band of Brian Ferry, and then they split, and then he became Brian Ferry. Tears for Fears. I was listening to a song, Wonderful Life by Black. We could put them also in the same range, in the same, I like to say mouvance, it's a French word to say movement. Also, Bronski Beat. Bronski Beat was a little before, and he was not quite in the same category. However, I think that he opened the door to this category, so I want to include Bronski Beat. But I have to explain to you how the things happened in the 80s, because if you are very young and you are watching this video right now, you don't know how the things happened and why this movement, why suddenly the music became like that. So I'm going to tell you what I lived, because I was there when it happened. I was the witness of all this. So I have a theory about that, and I'm going to explain to you how I lived the music. So a little music history first, so you will be able to understand. My musical education, I'm going to try to be fast, not to be too long, but you must understand the roots of all this, how it happened. So these are 3 albums of the Beatles, as you can see. They were not mine. They belong to my stepfather. I was too small to have records like that when this happened. So they belong to my stepfather. I stole them. before moving to the US. We must not say it. If he knew, he would be so mad. He didn't realize yet that I have them. But I love the Beatles. I grew up in my home, at my parents' home. They were listening to the Beatles, even though my mother was not doing the kind of music I like. But my stepfather was listening to the Beatles, not bad. And he was listening to Brazilian music. That's why I know a lot about Brazilian music, because we were listening to that all the time. So let's say that my musical education started with the Beatles. We cannot go wrong with that. That is the first album that I asked for. I was very small. I begged my parents to buy this for me. Johnny Rivers, John Lee Hooker. It was at the Whiskey A Go Go. You can find it on YouTube, but that is a must. You must listen to that. I couldn't live without that. I loved that when I was a very small child, and I still love it now. The same year, this was very famous, The Shocking Blue and Mango Jerry. Of course, everybody knows Venus. In the summertime, I love this song. We were dancing on that one. We were dancing. I was so small. Let's say that I was following the older children and dancing with them when I had the opportunity to do so, which was not very often, but I love these musics. I suppose that everybody knows Hair. It was also very big in France. We had a French version, of course, but for me, I really grew up with Hair. I think it's a classic. You have to know that. I grew up with that. That was really the psychedelic hippie flower power style. Flower power, then hippie style. Well, no, flower power and hippie is the same thing, but flower power is a little more innocent, and hippie became a little more, I don't know how to say that, little more harsh, little harsher, with a lot of drugs involved and etc. Anyway, I was still a child, but I absolutely loved Hair. Everybody had long hair then. Santana, I loved Santana. I could listen to this album days and days and days and night and days and night and days. I had a record player which was stopping alone when it was done, so I was putting the music and sleeping on it, and in the morning everything was off. It was perfect. I love Santana. I used to love Santana. I'm not sure if I suppose he still exists. I don't know. Another must. You must have that, the 10 years after. So the name is Shh. This album is absolutely a must. I love the guitars on it. It has been given to me for my birthday party. All my friends in my classroom, they put some money together. Because we were children, we didn't have a lot of money. So buying a record was very expensive for children. They bought that for me. I'm forever grateful. It's probably one of my favorite albums. I love that. So Maud the Hooper, I used to listen to that too. Ron Kane, the last time he came, he played that for me. It makes me think of the Rolling Stone a little. It makes me a little sad now when I listen to that, because it reminds me of Ron, but I love this album too. So we are still in the hippie period, still 70s, still psychedelic music. So you will see the evolution. First, flower power, at least for me. I didn't know what was before. I was not born. So I tell you what I saw, really. So flower power, then hippie, psychedelic music, a lot of guys screaming really loud, a lot of electrical guitars, and a lot of long hair. You see, I used to love that also. The name is Grapefruit Deepwater. You can find it on YouTube as well. Very hippie style, very psychedelic. I listen to it. It's not as good as in my memory, but I used to love that when I was younger. I still like it. I think that there is probably better music than that, but it's not bad. I really like that. I used to love Gilbert O'Sullivan. He was British. Actually, I think he was Irish going to England. Gilbert O'Sullivan, I saw him on stage. I really liked this guy a lot because he has wonderful melodies. He's a wonderful composer. The lyrics are very delicate also, like Dylan's lyrics. I also liked Band on the Run. It was after the Beatles separated. I used to prefer John Lennon. I always prefer John Lennon compared to Paul McCartney. However, Paul McCartney is an incredible composer. I saw one day a documentary about him composing, and wow, I was really in awe by watching that. I really like this album. I didn't follow them after that, but I really liked this album. So that was a little more further in the 70s. We were coming out from the hippie period. Not quite. I wanted also to show you Elton John. It's funny because today Elton John was with our French president for the Music Day, and also they are trying to get some money for AIDS. Captain Fantastic. Actually, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. This album was mine. This album belonged to my ex-husband. My ex-husband was very into, maybe still is, I don't know, very into Elton John. I was very into Elton John at that period. Talented man. This is not all what I have. I'm just showing you when the memory is the most vivid, I would say, because I have a lot of vinyls and records and CDs and cassette. Robert Charlebois is a Canadian. He's Canadian. He was very big in France, and I really liked Robert Charlebois at that period. The Rolling Stone, Mick Jagger. I love this album. I listened to it so much. 1973, so we are still in the 70s. Goat's Head Soup. So this one is 71. So the name of the album is Middle, but the song inside that I love the most is Echoes. Pink Floyd, 71. 75. In 73 you have The Dark Side of the Moon, which was the favorite album by Pink Floyd. Mark Hollis was loving this album. I don't have it. I listen to it very often on YouTube actually. Pink Floyd, for me, it's a must. You cannot escape Pink Floyd. Until the Wall. After, I don't know, I didn't follow. Actually, Dylan was telling me that he loved Pink Floyd, and Until the Wall, I agree with him. After the Wall, I didn't follow. Same thing, I couldn't live without these two albums. And I really like also The Dark Side of the Moon, but I think that I prefer these two ones. But know that Mark Hollis was preferring The Dark Side of the Moon, and it's normal, it's 73. It's his period. For me it was just a little after. I was more 75, but yeah. Till hippie, we were still in the hippie period, but now suddenly we are shifting in something else. Bowie, same thing, I recommend. A Lead Insane, Diamond Dogs, I recommend these albums. But we were not hippie anymore. We were shifting in what we would call glam, the glam music, you know, Slade, a lot of sparkle on the face. I put a little sparkle here. I loved David Bowie. When he died, I was so upset. It was like my whole childhood gone. It was not hippie anymore at all. And then we shifted in something else, which was the disco. The Bee Gees, Spirits Having Flown, and Saturday Night Fever, of course, the film with the music sung by the Bee Gees. We were all dancing on disco music, and it was completely different because they were starting being dressed like that, you know, with suits. They had very high-pitched voices singing like, oh, like that for boys. It was very surprising. It was quite different from the hippie period, because in the hippie period we were more peace and love, India, silver, jewelry, and suddenly we arrived here and it was no more India over, no more silver jewelry, rather gold, rather flashy, almost kitschy. It shifted in something else, and even then, at that period, I was already regretting the hippie psychedelic music. Even though I love disco, when I listen now to the Bee Gees, I really love, but it was not the psychedelic music. It was not the same anymore. And I was still young, I was still very young, but I was already crying over the Pink Floyd and, and the hippie style. And then we went to Supertramp. I really liked Supertramp. I was not super fan of Supertramp, but I liked that. And then Police. So Police, I really liked Police, Sting. But it was more, we were more going towards, disco over. We were going to something more punk. It was more punk. Ghost in the Machine, the name of the album. Oh, I listened to that so much. Kim Carnes was very big then. I like this album. I was not a fan of Kim Carnes, but I liked this album. Steely Dan, Go Show, so that is completely different, more jazzy. It was completely different, but I listened to Steely Dan a lot during a period. Christopher Cross, I was listening to that. I think that I liked one or two songs in that, but it was exactly the same period. So we were not yet in the 80s. That, it was really the end of the 70s, very beginning of the 80s. I'm right, 79. So it was really the end of the 70s, and we were shifting to the 80s, which became completely different, and I'm going to explain to you why. So all this background to show you the evolution of the music then. Flower power, hippie, glam, disco, and then from the disco, it was the big period of Michael Jackson and Prince, Sting then arrived, and U2, this period, U2, Sting more punk, so at a period it was very punk, reggae, actually Mark Hollis was coming from the punk. And then we arrived to this, what we call the new romantic, Talk Talk, Simple Minds, Depeche Mode, Brian Ferry, Roxy Music, Cock Robin, except that Talk Talk had something more than the other ones. Actually, Sade, I was listening to that before this movement started. She was at the beginning of that. I was listening to Sade because we were playing her music a lot in the nightclubs where I used to go, especially at the Palace. But it's completely different. It's not the same movements. That was my cassette in my Walkman. I already showed it to you. It's My Life. That was my treasure that I was taking with me everywhere. Cock Robin, that was in 1989. Later, it's their third album. Avalon, Roxy Music. I have the box. Inside, it's Chris Isaac. Who did that? Anyway, I bought the CD. Simple Minds. I was listening to Simple Minds a lot. Simple Minds, much darker, dark. So, why it was different, that's what I want to explain. We were coming from the disco where they were singing with a very high-pitched voice, like Bronski Beat, but suddenly the guys were singing basso profundo, I would say, with a much lower voice, and they were dressed like dandies with suits. It was completely different, and it was darker, more romantic, more nostalgic. It was kind of dark, so that's why the Palace, which was a nightclub, very dark and very decadent, was fitting perfectly with this kind of music. Grace Jones, La Vie en Rose, Toto. So they were not in this movement, but we were listening to Toto. Imagination, that was completely different, that was funky, completely different, but all that mixed together. So why Tok Tok was different? Because Tok Tok first album, I would say, was a mix of the punk Mark was coming from and this new romantic movement. Then It's My Life was really the most 80 romantic album by Tok Tok. But as soon as he moved to The Color of Spring, he was already out of the movement. He was not there anymore. He was more back to the psychedelic, to the... There is something very hippie in what he's doing. That's why at the beginning he was wearing a suit, and then he was with long hair and dressed like not like a hippie, but very casual, because he wanted to convey, to say, hello, I'm not that anymore. I'm what I love in the music, which is jazz, psychedelic music. So Derde Verde took the... So far, they took mostly the psychedelic aspect by Tok Tok and Mark. But in their last songs, they included in it something very romantic. And I think that suddenly, even if it makes me think of The Color of Spring, suddenly it put me in the mood of the romantic. Why? I want now to talk about Cock Robin, because all that is linked. Okay. Cock Robin, they were, as I was saying, American. They had no success in the US. That's probably why they arrived a little later. Probably they tried and tried and tried and tried, and they emerged only in 1985. Probably they tried before, and that's why we were thinking that they were after the other ones. But no, they were probably at the same time, just they had to fight more. And they got a lot of success in France. So much success that finally Peter Kingsbury moved to France. He's American and he lives in France still now. It's when he got separated with Anna Lacazio, who was his girlfriend, because she wanted to go back to the US and he wanted to stay in France. So I followed Cock Robin only between 1985 and 1990. I cannot tell you what happened next after that. I don't know, I'm sorry. Why I wanted to talk about them? Because I always thought that it was not fair that they had so little success in the US, while they were as good as all the other ones. Maybe not as good as Mark and Tok Tok, but they didn't have to envy anything compared to the other ones. They were as good, according to me. Cock Robin is mostly Peter Kingsbury. He composes, he writes the lyrics, most of the songs, and he has an amazing voice. His songs, I see them very sensitive and calm, and suddenly like an outburst, because he is probably, I don't know, sensitive and very upset in the same time, and he had reason to be upset because he didn't have the success that he deserved. So that was making him very angry. And I get that, because he didn't deserve that. I never understood why it was so hard for them. So I read a review online where they were saying that this album, that I also have as a CD, it's the third one, and the name is First Love, Last Rites. This album was looking too much like Roxy Music or Bryan Ferry. At first, I thought, why do they say that? It's not the same spirit, because for me, Bryan Ferry and Roxy Music is more theater, red velvet, dandy, glamour, decadent, top models, saxophone. For example, on Don't Stop the Dance. You remember when I did the painting Tomorrow Started? That's what I was thinking of. Don't stop the dance. Brian Ferry Theatre, Red Velvet, Decadent. It's a concept, it's an image that the music conveys. It reminds me of the Palace when I was going there in the 80s, 1985, 1986, 1987. Saxophone. Cock Robin is completely trumpets, not the same mood at all. Just one thing, the keyboards that you hear, I'm basically sure that it's the DX7 Yamaha. Everybody was playing on the DX7. I will put a link in the description box where someone shows you how this vintage keyboard is working. It is so typical of this period. All the sounds are very, very, very 80s, very DX7, very digital drums. All these sounds are so 80s, but still it is good. So according to me, Cock Robin was not like Brian Ferry in the theater mood. It's more, these trumpets are more what I see, because you know music gives me images, and it happens that Cock Robin gives me images. It's more circus, sad trumpets, sad Mexican trumpets. It's more, yes, more Spanish. I don't know how to explain that. It's not decadent, dandy like Brian Ferry. It's slightly different. So I went to listen to Roxy Music. So Roxy Music was before Brian Ferry. When they got separated, Roxy Music became Brian Ferry. Actually, I listened to that, and it's true that it's very similar to what I'm hearing in this, because there are also sad trumpets, but still the vibe conveyed by Brian Ferry is not the same vibe conveyed by Cock Robin. So I think that they didn't deserve this kind of controversy saying that he was copying Brian Ferry. No, actually this album, the third one, is the most representative, the most typical of Cock Robin style. What I liked in their duo, it's not really a duo, it's a band, and it happens that she's there. So she was the muse. You know, she was dancing beside him, singing. She has a wonderful voice. She's beautiful and she wears really nice dresses. Then my dream was to do her job. I mean, the job which consists in dancing and singing and wearing nice dresses and jumping all around your man on the stage. Your hero just beside you. What a wonderful job! Then I didn't know what it means, how much work it means. So I started taking singing lessons. I took a lot of singing lessons and I took a lot of dancing lessons. Well, I've been dancing my whole life. Not now, but I mean, when I was younger, I started with classical dance during years and then all kind of dances, and I'm considering going back because I miss that so much. I love dancing. So I was on my way of becoming not an Anna. If I had the choice, I would have preferred being a Kate Bush, for example. I love Kate Bush. She is a classical dancer. I like Björk also, for example. I'm not a very big fan of women singers in general, but yes, Kate Bush, Annie Lennox, her voice, wow. Björk, these are women that I really respect a lot. I was on my way of that. You know, it's one thing singing things in front of people for a wedding, a party, or even a small show in a small nightclub where there is a few people, it's okay. But when you are really on stage in front of a lot of people, then it's something else. And then I realized it's not for me. I was so scared. I was so not made for the stage. So I didn't become a singer or anything. Okay, all that to say that Kirk Robin, after 1990, he was asked to sing on a song written by Michel Berger, who is a very famous French composer.
Too high, a price to pay.
And you know, he sang that one night on a show. Oh, this gives me the chills. On a show, and I was watching that with my mother years ago when it was famous. And my mother, who used to be a singer, a very famous singer in France, she's not sensitive like me. She's not the kind of woman being overwhelmed by music as I am. But she was listening to that and she told me, he's overwhelming me. And I thought, okay, I'm not crazy. He has such a voice. It was so overwhelming, his way of singing. I've been always wondering why it has been different for Kirk Robin. And I thought that I had to talk about it and to show my respect for this artist who deserves, actually, he's still touring now. He's doing a show tonight somewhere in France. I posted it on my Facebook. I don't have right now the time to do a proper video about Kirk Robin because I'm focused on Derde Verde, but I just wanted to say that because if tomorrow something happens to me, at least the world will know what I was thinking about Kirk Robin. So why Kirk Robin made me understand Derde Verde's music? I was wondering why Kirk Robin close to Hollis, Hollis close to Derde Verde. Why Kirk Robin not close to Derde Verde? You know, it's not like mathematics. If A equals B and B equals C, it means that A equals C. In music, it's not mathematics. It's not like that. Anyway, there is no music which equals another music. Each music is different, even if it's in the same mood, in the same ambience, it's not the same music. Hollis, according to me, and that is my humble opinion, is way beyond all the people I've been talking about. All these people are very good, but they are not at the same level as Tok Tok. When I was listening to that in my Walkman, walking all around Paris with that in my ears, night and days and night, I love this album. It's my life. I love it. We talk a lot about the color of spring, about Laughing Stock, about Spirit of Eden, even about the Hollis solo album. We don't talk enough about It's My Life because everything was there already. Everything was there already, and I knew it right away. Right away, I knew it. I didn't know what he was going to do. I couldn't know in advance that he was going to create all what he did, but I understood that there was something different in that. Anyway, what is the common point between this and this, which arrived a little later? We cannot compare that with The Color of Spring. We cannot compare that with Laughing Stock. We cannot compare that with Spirit of Eden. We cannot compare that with the Hollis solo album. Sorry, I didn't said it in the right order. Anyway, we cannot even compare that to the first album, The Party's Over. It's quite different. Party's Over, much more beginning of the 80s, more Hollis. I don't know how to say that. It's no. But if there is a comparison to make, only with this album, only. So what do they have in common? And I found what they have in common. And I have that in common with Derde Verde. First, they are all romantic. So romantic. For example, in the song Ready to Fall. To to that. That is so romantic. I will go back on the song. By the way, you can find a little this romantic aspect in Echoes by Pink Floyd. When I listen to Pink Floyd, it makes me happy. I don't know why. You can find very often some romantic part, for example, in music. Sometimes it's not the whole song, it can be a part of the song. So in the first albums by Derde Verde, I would say that it's more located in specific places, even though, for example, for me, a song like Mirror is terribly romantic when I think about it. But also sometimes it's just a small part. For example, the song Staring into Dying Light. It's just a part of it. It is in this album. Meander Belt is the name of the album. So you see, it could be almost a scene in a movie. I see so many images on that. For me, it is a scene in a movie, a scene very romantic, and I can find things like that. And on their last songs that they played live, if you want to check their live, please check my previous video and you will see the most of it. On the new songs, they are all romantic. Everything is romantic. So I don't know if it's going to be like that on the album, because I didn't hear the arrangements on the album yet. The Color of Spring is also terribly romantic, and Cock Robin is sometimes romantic too. So we were calling them the new romantic. There is a reason for that, because the music was romantic. But I could say the same thing about Simple Minds. Simple Minds is dark but romantic also, but Bryan Ferry is romantic but not in the same sense of the word. The sound is romantic, but Bryan Ferry is not a person who conveys romanticism, according to me. That's my humble opinion. I think that I'm going to scream a lot of people by saying that. No, I love Bryan Ferry, but romantic is not the first word which comes to my mind. For me, it's very decadent, very dandy, very glamorous. Not romantic. It's not the same thing. Romantic, there is a form of innocence in the romantic aspect. Bryan Ferry is not innocent, if you see what I mean. We are not talking about Bryan Ferry right now. So the romanticism is the first aspect that we can find in Tok Tok, in Marcolis, in Derde Verde, and in Cock Robin, according to me. There is a second aspect which is very important. So I was listening to Cock Robin and I was listening to the song Worlds Apart, which is the last song on this album. The lyrics of Cock Robin are very different from Derde Verde. Derde Verde is much more delicate, it's much more subtle, romantic, touching. The lyrics by Cock Robin are a little more straightforward, not as delicate. I would say it's more simple. I'm talking about the lyrics.
Wish me well, or help me solve this mystery.
However, the theme, Worlds Apart and Staring into Dying Light, see a link between the both. When I listen to that, you will see the romantic aspect. So when I listen to a song like this, besides the fact that I found that very romantic,
No such thing. I'm sure you're mistaken me.
I noticed something.
I'm your man. Then give a last embrace.
I'm going to show you. You see at the beginning of the drums. So you must know that I put that. I think it was much longer than what we hear on YouTube. And we could hear a lot of animals. And I managed to record. I don't remember how I did that because we didn't have what we have now. But I managed to put this part on my answering machine in the 80s. And when people were calling, they arrived on this intro. I absolutely loved this intro. I loved that so much. I didn't know why then I liked that, but after doing during 4 years videos about Mark Hollis and Talk Talk, I finally and arriving on Derde Verde now, I finally understand why I love that so much. And why I love so much Derde Verde. I was very often talking about the hypnotizing effect, and someone wrote a comment under my video, or I don't know in which social media, anyway, saying that Mark Hollis was haunting. And I started focusing on this haunting aspect. That's right, this song, especially this part at the beginning, is very haunting. This, the last song, Worlds Apart, the beginning is a little, not exactly the same, but it's in the same spirit. It's haunting as well. That's why I like so much Worlds Apart on this album. And then I realized that Klatsch. So Klatsch is on this album. It's the first one. Album that I recommend. Wow. Doesn't mean that this one is not good, but I really love this album. Really. Anyway, I will come back on all the songs. I was planning to work on all the songs by Derde Verde, but this cock robin happened in the middle of the mix. It was not planned, but that's how it happened. Klatsch. Completely different, much more industrial, much more can. A little bit of, maybe a little bit of Pink Floyd in it. But the thing is there. It's the same thing. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same spirit. Not the same style, but the same spirit, the same idea. This hunting thing, this linear thing that you can find in Cannes, actually. And then I remembered that I asked my son to, a very long time ago, for a video. I wanted something like the beginning, not like, but in something which could remind vaguely the beginning of Such a Shame. And I asked my son to do something, and he did a piece. And one morning I woke up and I had these 4 pieces in my mind. And I understood. I finally understood what I like. I love what is hunting. Hunting, it's difficult for me to explain to you, because when I hear music, I see music. Not all the musics, but all the ones I'm talking right now about, I see them. I can visualize them. And I see something linear. It's like after the flood. It's like, have you heard the news? It's like living in another world. It's like life's what you make it. It's like all these songs, for example, not to touch the earth, not to see the sun, nothing left to do but run, run, run. Let's run. The Doors. I'm not going to talk about the Doors right now because it's going to come in a further video. But anyway, even the Doors included this linear thing in the music, and it gives this hunting feeling. That you cannot stop. It's like, how to explain that? It's like when you start listening to that, you cannot stop listening to it because it's kind of hypnotic. It's hypnotic and it's haunting. And that's why I can like that and in the same time love that. And in the same time love that. I have CDs by Tok, of course. I don't have only that. It's just to show you what I had in the 80s. Anyway, all that, there is a link. Even though Cock Robin has nothing to do with Derde Verde, but they play on the same emotion on us. And that is brilliant. It's brilliant about Derde Verde because they completely understood what it was about. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed by them. I could listen to that the whole day. And I didn't know why, because usually I'm not a super fan of the instrumental pieces, but I love that. You cannot imagine how impressed I am by these young people. Really, really. And I feel honored to be able to watch them work, because that is genius. It sounds like an elevator. Now I know some details about how it was made. It makes me laugh. So, for example, if we listen to the second song that they played on June 12th, I don't know the name of the song yet. Is in the same time very romantic, and in the same time very haunting, and in the same time there is a little bit something of Brian Ferry in it, and in the same time it makes me think all the time of I Don't Believe in You, and I cannot put my finger on it why, but it's how I feel this song. I think that Derde Verde managed perfectly to gather the romantic aspect and the haunting aspect in these new songs. They evolved. It's different from that It's different from that, and there is a third one that I don't have yet. And in the same time, we recognize their style. It's them. How do they do that? I'm impressed. You cannot imagine how impressed I am to have the chance to live that, to witness, to see them play, to be able to talk to them and exchange about music with them. I'm very lucky. I touch some wood because every time I say I'm lucky, something happens. I can only be grateful to be in this situation, to do these videos for you. I love doing videos for you. I love when you comment on my videos, that we can exchange about music. I love the idea of sharing Derde Verde with you, because it's not Marcolis, it's not Tok Tok, but it still continues the love for Marcolis and Tok Tok by another way, with other people, with creators who are as brilliant, as interesting, and as talented. And I feel so honored, really so honored to be able to do that for you, and for me. I do it for me too. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Okay, so I will continue to talk about them in my next video. I have another theme. I wanted today to talk about Cock Robin, to talk about Tok Tok, and chiefly to talk about Derde Verde. I love them. I hope that you are going to love them as much as I do. You can take the time to subscribe to my channel. Just click on subscribe and the little bell beside it. It would really help my channel, and it really encourages me to continue. Anyway, I plan to continue, because don't stop when you have something like that in front of you. I've never been listening to as much music as these days, thanks to Derde Verde, because they make me ask questions about music that I didn't think about before. That's wonderful. Okay, I see you in my next one. Bye bye.